I do admit that sometimes I'm a little bit envious of other international students because they often have their Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lin Chen. I'm a recent MBA graduate from Cornell Johnson and I'm currently working in Seattle post my MBA. For many of you who have been following the channel, you know that I come from Singapore. And a few months ago, I actually made a video regarding the culture shock of a Singaporean student studying in the US. And today I thought it would be interesting for me to extend the topic a little bit by really walking you through what is it really like for someone coming from a small country like Singapore to be studying in the United States. And hopefully this video will give prospective students some insights about student life in Singapore for someone from a small country and help you make the decision as to whether or not to come to US to pursue your studies. And you probably can tell I'm currently in the University of Washington. So it's a great campus, and today is one of the rare days where Seattle isn't raining. So I thought it's also quite fun for me to just show you guys what the campus is like during this video, so stay tuned. For those who are unfamiliar with Singapore, Singapore is located in Southeast Asia and is about 85 miles north of the equator, so it's in a tropical place, it's very hot and humid. And in terms of size, it's about the geographical size of New York City. Whenever I tell my friends, my classmates, the local students, or even like chatting with Uber drivers that I come from Singapore, everyone's first reaction will be like, wow, Singapore. I think it's mainly because Singapore is such a small and unique country, so there's always that level of mystique associated with the country. So whenever someone hears that I come from Singapore, they'll be kind of quite surprised, and it's kind of like probe them to ask more questions about what Singapore is like, which part of Asia is it in, what is the culture. So I realized that telling people that I come from Singapore is always a good conversation starter in the US, be it just conversing with friends or even during like networking chats with recruiters or alums. And honestly speaking, I think that Singapore has a pretty good reputation around the world. So whenever I tell my classmates that I come from Singapore, it's usually a positive sign. And in terms of language, there is almost no language barrier for Singaporeans studying in the US because maybe many of the audience do not know that because in Singapore, English is our primary mode of education. Basically, all subjects from elementary school all the way to university are taught in English, with the exception of our mother tongue, which is the second language that we need to learn, for example, Chinese or Malay. But other than that, every single subject like math, science, history, geography are all taught in English. So English speaking is never a problem for Singaporean. It's usually more like for some of the Chinese students in terms of race, conversing in Chinese is a bigger challenge because the modern generation, they do not really speak Chinese, speak Mandarin as frequently because it's not that as required in school or in the workplace. But I do sometimes receive feedback that my English accent growing up in Singapore is a little bit different from the American English accent. So this is something that I can't really help. But I would say that in general, there is no major language barrier coming to the US. So this is something I'm very thankful about. I personally find it slightly harder to make friends initially coming in the US as compared to international students from other Asian countries. For example, international students coming from China, Japan, Thailand or Korea, they usually have a large group of cohort coming from the same home country studying in the university. So it's kind of very easy for them to make friends within their own country, classmates from the get-go. so that they can really kind of like hang out with each other in their home country prior to even coming to the US to study. However, Singaporean students don't really have that luxury, unfortunately, because we are such a small country, and honestly, there isn't that many Singaporean students studying in the US to begin with. So every cohort, like for Cornell Johnson, usually every cohort there's only like 1 or 2 Singaporean maximum. So it's kind of impossible for us to kind of form a clique of Singaporean group within a cohort. Because of this, at the start, it's slightly harder for us to find our fixed group of friends. Over time, as the school term goes by, this is not really a challenge anymore, because this situation actually forces Singaporean students to get out of our comfort zone, to mingle with classmates from other countries and form our own group. I do admit that sometimes I'm a little bit envious of other international students, because they often have their own like Thai group gathering, Japanese gathering, just like cooking their own country's food and just speaking their own country's language. Something that I wasn't able to do, but all in all, I would say that it does not take away from the American university experience, because coming here is kind of like training us to get out of our comfort zone, to mingle with other classmates. So all in all, I still had a great 2 years of experience at Cornell Johnson. In terms of food, I think food is inevitably the biggest challenge for any Singaporean students, because we are so pampered growing up in terms of food in Singapore. First of all, food is so cheap in Singapore. It is super accessible. Basically, anywhere we are within the country, any streets, any corner we are within the country, there's always tons of food stores everywhere for us to eat. Like, we have our hawker, we have our coffee shops everywhere scattered around the country, so we are never short of like delicious food when we are craving for something. However, this isn't really the case in US. I came to notice that not only US but Western countries in general, the proportion of food places are just not as abundant around the cities. Like, normally in US, where we want to have something to eat, we normally need to go to a proper restaurant. It's harder for us to grab quick bites along the streets. They are just not as commonly seen. And also in terms of the taste of the food, Western food in general for most Asian students are just not as tasty as Asian food. So this is something that we have to kind of sacrifice studying in the US. I mean, end of the day, it's a little bit of give and take. But thankfully, I would say that food in general is not that big of a priority for me personally. I do know of friends who basically prioritize food over everything else. So this is something to consider when coming to US to study. In terms of culture, there is definitely a noticeable difference between Western culture and Asian culture studying here. American classmates and students in general are more direct especially when addressing conflicts, disagreements. I think back in Singapore, normally when we have conflicts or disagreements during schoolwork, normally we will try to be a bit less direct so as to not hurt someone's feelings. However, here in American culture, I think like students in general still pay attention to classmates' feelings, but on a more relative scale, classmates are more direct because they want to get the things done. Therefore, when they speak, they can be more straight to the point. So this is just something to get used to, not a major issue for me. And I would say that Singapore in general is more westernized than other Asian countries. So this is not really a major culture shock for me, but it's just something that I kind of had to get used to during my first few months working in group projects with American classmates. And lastly, climate. Growing up in a tropical country, many of us Singaporean students have not really experienced winter or snow before. So you can see now that I'm definitely overdressed for the current weather. It's approximately 9 degrees Celsius at the moment, but most people around here are not wearing as much as I am. So I hope that no one is laughing at me. But the surprising thing is that I really enjoy the 4 seasons here in the US. Honestly, growing up, Singapore's hot and humid climate was something that I really dislike. So honestly, for me, it's kind of a good escape for me in the US, enjoying a cooler temperature, not having to be sweaty all the time, and having to shower multiple times a day. So this is something that I'm actually enjoying, although I'm definitely overdressed. All in all, I had a great experience studying in the US. This was something that I always wanted to do, so therefore I'm really thankful that I had this opportunity to experience this. So right now, being a full-time working adult in the US, it definitely poses a new set of challenges and experience for me ahead. So I'm definitely very excited about what's ahead for me. So to end off the video, I'll continue to tour University of Washington's campus and also visit the university village. So continue to watch the video and I'll see you guys soon. Honestly, the university village so far feels more like a luxury outlet store than actually like university town or something. So students here definitely having the good life. So I'm just going to try to get some drinks, then probably head my way home on a bike.